It's very easy to become obsessed with seeking the truth. And I can very much relate to this kind of seeking. A lot of us, we have very deep philosophical interests in spirituality. We want to understand what consciousness is, what the universe is, how we can exist as beings within this seeming universe. And these, of course, are endlessly deep questions. And finding some kind of truth there is very compelling. I totally get that. But at the same time, it's important to remember that why we started our spiritual practice was not to find the ultimate truth. It was to find peace, freedom from suffering, happiness, whatever we want to call it. And it's worth reminding ourselves that at the end of the day, this is what really matters to us. And of course, we can ask ourselves this question, right? I mean, if we somehow would never find out what the ultimate truth of being is, but we would be perfectly at peace, everything would just be seen as an expression of perfection. Wouldn't that be good enough? Do we need the truth if we can have that kind of experience? Now, I'm not trying to answer that question for you, but it's definitely worth pondering to check your motivation, what you're after in your spiritual practice. And there's a beautiful analogy given in Buddhism about this dilemma of looking for the truth. If you get struck by an arrow, do you first want to find out who the person is who did it, what his personality is, out of what material the arrow was made, at what velocity it struck you? All these questions about what happened and what your situation currently is. Or do you just want to get rid of the arrow and heal yourself? In other words, do you just want the very pragmatic solution to your suffering? Or do you want to find out what the ultimate cause of your suffering is? And I think it's very much worth arguing for that ultimately our goal should not just be to find some kind of ultimate truth of existence, but to simply be free from suffering. But of course, seeking the truth and liberation from suffering is not totally divorced from each other. It's very much the case that asking very meaningful and deep questions about the nature of existence can lead us directly to what we are looking for in order to become free from suffering. So in that sense, that kind of seeking can be useful, right? But I think it's still important to have a sort of pragmatic outlook on this kind of looking for the truth. We're not looking for the truth so that we have a perfect expression of what it is, the ideal formulation. It's not about trying to win a philosophical debate. We could say that in some sense, looking for the truth is essential because it opens us up beyond our normal viewpoint. Our suffering is largely created by the fact that we are fixated and addicted to a particular way of orienting to our experience. And when we are looking for the truth of what we are, we encounter radically different viewpoints. We notice all of a sudden that there is a vastly different way of experiencing everything. And by doing so, there is this release of fixation, this release of grasping. We stop our addiction to our habitual way of looking at the world. And our suffering as a result decreases. And so the result of looking for the truth could very much be that we encounter these new perspectives, new insights, new viewpoints, which free us from our addiction to our interpretations. And if that's the case, that's beautiful, of course, right? I mean, as I said, for the most part, that's why we started our spiritual practice, right? To have this kind of change in experience, to find this peace. But again, here we should remind ourselves that if we're looking for the ultimate viewpoint, the essential final insight, then we might just be chasing a carrot on the stick because we will never reach it. And maybe the value of looking for the truth is not necessarily in finding the perfect final view, the perfect formulation of the truth, but in simply seeing that what this is, what the reality of this experience is, can never be encapsulated in any kind of final view. This will always remain inherently mysterious. We don't need to find all the answers about what this is. Simply noticing that it's not what we think it is extremely liberating. So, to say it very briefly, there's nothing wrong with looking for the truth, but don't expect to find it. And especially don't expect to find it as some kind of verbal formulation. This simply is. The suchness of experience is here. And what exactly it is, well, do you need to know? You have the experience of it. And the experience of it is absolutely beyond what you imagine it to be.